Ibrahim Khan, Deputy General Manager for Hisense Manufacturing, is joining me in studio. We're going to be chatting about Hisense's plans for the South African market. Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good to have you here.
Likewise.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear about Hisense's plans. They're actually the biggest TV manufacturer in China. How do you plan to bring that into the South African market?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the market's different. So, we've been operating our business here for about 17, 18 years. So I think we understand the South African market and the South African consumer quite well. But we've built up the business gradually, and we've taken sort of the success factors that we've achieved in China, and we sort of not just redeploying it over here, but we understanding in detail exactly what do we need to do in order to use that success stories and implement it over here. So, I mean, like you said, we a massive player in the Chinese market. In actual fact, we are the number one player in the market for TV sales almost in a decade in China.
Wow.
And the other big players out there coming into China, they cannot compete with Hisense. And
why is that?
Well, I think primarily because we understand the Chinese market, and the Chinese consumer really appreciate the brand. Whereas we have to obviously build up the brand in South Africa, but in China, Hisense is seen as a high-end premium brand, and the Chinese consumers really trust it. So that obviously contributed to the track record that we've experienced in China.
Now, how do you plan on building that brand in South Africa to get to the same magnitude as it is in China?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is that we've committed our sort of investment and the localization of our business to the South African market. Quite recently, last year, we've established a manufacturing plant. So we've invested 350 million rand, not just doing marketing stuff, but actually investing in creating local jobs and localizing the business so that we can optimize our supply chain. We can, bring the feel-good proudly South African factor to our business. Mm-hmm. And we believe building it up from the bottom, where we have a manufacturing base to support our growth prospects, is the way for us to grow.
Samsung has such a mass marketing budget for televisions in South Africa. How does Hisense plan to compete with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you walk into a store, you only see Samsungs, really.
Yeah. Yeah. We are growing very, very aggressively. Mm-hmm. I think generally, the Samsung brand, they are doing well, and we obviously have to recognize that. I think it's wouldn't make any rational sense for me to say that they are not doing well. They are doing very well, and they're growing extremely well. Where we are, we've experienced massive growth. If we look at certain research that's been commissioned and that's been made available, we're moving a serious amount of volume. Mm-hmm. If you look at the first 6 months of this year, I think it's safe to say that we've moved the second most volume in the South African market. Wow. So I can also see it from a manufacturing point of view. If you look at the composition of the products that's actually going out, more and more we are starting to see that there's a bigger demand for our high-end products. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously a positive sign in terms of the consumers are not only worried about purchasing a Hisense product based on the price point, but they are interested to actually engage in the brand and purchase the product based on the brand credentials, the aesthetic of the product, the design, mm-hmm. The performance, etc. So much more than just price, and that's sort of positive news for us in terms of building the TV business in South Africa.
There's been a lot of talk in the grapevine, I guess. You hear people saying, especially when it comes to the South African market, how do we ensure older technologies aren't getting dumped here so the newer technologies can go over to the Western countries? What's your recommendation to consumers? How do we make sure we are getting the latest technologies?
Yeah, I generally hear that from some people, and I think the reality is that the way how business has actually globalized, mm-hmm. That's no longer a factor, especially when we talk about consumer electronics, high-tech products. We have to bring in the same level of technology into South Africa like the US for us to compete in the local market. I mean, with the evolution of the internet, consumers can quite easily see what's offered in other markets, and for us it would be very stupid not to bring that same level of technology to the South African consumer. So if we launch a new range of products in the US or in Australia or in Europe, if we talk about 2 or 3 weeks being late, I'm really serious about it. That's sort of the gap nowadays. We do have products that's specifically developed for certain niche markets, like any other business, but the type of TVs that we manufacture in South Africa, the refrigerators, are based on a global standard, and so there isn't anything like technology dumping or any of those sorts. We are bringing the latest technology in order for us to compete quite effectively, because if you look at the other brands, they are bringing high-tech stuff. So for us to bring things that are outdated, we cannot compete. So we have to bring in the latest technologies.